Hello everybody, this is WarriorDan and you're looking at Fortnite Battle Royale. Fortnite Battle Royale is a 100-man PvP arena game where you are thrown into a ever-decreasingly sized arena and pitted against other players. You pick up weapons and items in order to help you survive. Now, over the last couple days, I've been playing a lot of Fortnite. Basically, whatever time I have to play video games, I've been playing Fortnite. That and Overwatch, but we'll get to that another time. But when I was playing Fortnite fairly recently, I started developing this new tactic, which I ultimately found rather interesting. Now, I should start this off by saying I'm not very good when it comes to shooting. I'm not a great sniper. I can do okay at mid to close range combat, but in most situations, I prefer to run away rather than directly engage an enemy. Especially when it's like 2v1 or other situations where the odds are not in my favor. That said, one night I wanted to try a little bit of an experiment, and what I set myself to do was play an entire round of Fortnite without killing anyone. Now, much to my chagrin, it worked so well that I ended up placing myself in the top 10 on my first try. And then over the course of the last couple days, I started doing that tactic more and more, and almost every single time I've played the game and tried this, it has led me to being somewhere in the top 10, if not the top 5. And so I wanted to discuss this because I find the issue of when to shoot or when not to shoot to be particularly interesting in a game where the whole purpose is to be put in an arena where you, yes, shoot people. So let's break that down for a moment. You start off the game in a giant floating bus that defies the laws of gravity, and you jump on down into a world and grab some weapons and survive. That's the whole point of the game. What I like to do is pick a spot in the map, usually a spot that has been around for quite a while, not added recently, and I try to go there, get some supplies, and kind of just wait for the first circle to spawn, so I know where I need to start running to. Usually my top favorite places are places like Wailing Woods, Lonely Lodge, so on and so forth. Specifically, I've noticed that not a lot of people go to the Heads Maze, so that's my favorite go-to spot for the most part. What I then try to do is I try to gather some wood and other resources, that way in case I need to build a quick defense or a getaway plan, like building a big ramp up to the heavens, I can do so at my own will. After building up a steady supply of resources and 1 or 2 weapons to defend myself with if I happen to need it, I then make my way to the very edge of the circle. Usually, especially early on in the game, the circles that you're supposed to run into and be in the radius of are fairly large, and over the course of the game, the circle continues to shrink and push players closer and closer together. A lot of players tend to stick near the middle of the circle because in the game, that's generally where random balloon drops will spawn. Basically, you'll have these floating treasure chests, if you will, these loot boxes that drop down from the sky via a weather balloon, and players have to fight to gain control of it. If you happen to secure the balloon, there are usually a fair amount of resources and exclusively rare weapons inside that will make it easier to fend off enemy players. Most players, if they are of the competitive mindset, would run headlong towards these balloons. I prefer to, well, run away. And so this leads us to the ultimate question. What kind of playstyle should Fortnite be encouraging? Because when I start off the map, let's go back to the basics. When I start off the map, and when we're in the bus, a lot of people tend to jump right out of the bus and fly straight down to the ground to get resources and supplies as fast as possible. I and my friends tend to hang in the air and wait as the player count continues to spiral downwards. By the time we finally hit the ground after floating in the air for a couple minutes, the player count will usually drop from 99 or 100 players to about 60 or 50 or even 40. So from a strategic perspective, it's not a bad idea to hang in there, but there is a contrasting downside to that. If you hang in there and let other players kill each other and fight for resources, there's going to be very few resources left when you land on the ground and start looking around because most players would already have looted the more obviously known areas, leaving you to scavenge whatever happens to be left behind by dead players or by areas that they didn't explore. It's a much different style of gameplay. It's almost like if you ever see The Hunger Games, Katniss Everdeen survives not by directly engaging with the enemy, but rather by avoiding them at all costs, avoiding areas where weapon drops are known to be located and so on. So in the game, you basically have these two playstyles of the aggressive playstyle, I call it, the playstyle where you drop down to the earth as fast as you can, land in a spot that's going to be highly contested by players and known to have a wide array of weapons, or you float in the air, slowly make your way down to the ground, and hang out on the very edge of the circle. Now, I'm not a big PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds person, but I have seen many streams and a lot of videos made on the game, and I do not see this style of play, this sneaky, hanging to the edges kind of play, embraced too widely in that community. Whereas in Fortnite, it seems to be more commonplace to have these hide-and-seek little encounters, as opposed to, well, directly engaging with groups of players. Many times I'll walk around the map and I'll see players usually hanging out on a big hill, building some kind of big structure to basically just hide in and kind of block themselves off from the world and from being spotted by other enemy teams. At some points, Fortnite ultimately becomes this peekaboo game where players will hide in their forts, and then it will turn into a sniper battle or a bazooka battle, depending on what weapons are involved, where both teams will just try to see who can destroy the other one's base faster. And that does beg the question, is this kind of playstyle stale? The idea of encouraging very slow building action? Or should this game be a little bit more dynamic and disincentivize people from just hiding in the corners and embrace a more action-oriented playstyle? The Fortnite team have recently been making moves to try to increase the number of player kills by creating more unique locations that players will be, once again, incentivized to visit. Just recently we saw I'm going to blank on the name of the update, but I'm going to call it the Twisted Towers update, where we had Twisted Towers listed as a new location, and we got a haunted graveyard location and a couple others. And the whole aim of that was to make it easier for players to locate and kill one another. Currently the game has roughly, I would say, 12 to 15 known locations, but there are many still open areas where you could walk whole minutes without seeing a notable town or location. So my question to you, the audience, is do you think the current balance of this game, allowing players to basically hide out and wait until enemy encounters, is a viable option? Do you think it's something that should be encouraged, or do you think the Fortnite team can more proactively try to curb this playstyle by adding new locations and trying new innovative ways to push players closer together? Either way, these are just my opinions. This has been WarriorDan. I have been having a great time with Fortnite. It's been an absolute pleasure to play, and I look forward to doing more commentary videos on it in the future. And who knows, maybe open it up to streaming as well. This is WarriorDan signing out. Stay awesome, everybody, and peace out.